I've given this account 11 times now, and each time the conclave asks me to begin again at the KL expanse, as though repetition might wear the truth down into something more comfortable. It will not soften. I will give it once more, in full, and then I would ask that no one ask me again. The expense was never forbidden. That is the first thing the conclave must hold on to, because every report since has treated it as though we ignored some old warning carved into stone. We did not. The KL expanse was simply blank. 300 light-years of gray nothing on every Threll chart for 6 centuries. A stretch our long-range instruments had never resolved into a star, a world, or even a drifting hull. The older lineages, core remnant fleets, and what is left of the Anthe would not cross it. But the old lineages would not cross a great many things, and we had long since stopped asking why. Blank meant unclaimed. Unclaimed meant ours if we were the first to reach it and chart it properly. That was the whole of our reasoning, and the conclave approved it without a single dissenting voice. I was given 3 vessels. The Ashward, flagship, built heavy for endurance rather than speed. The Long Quiet, our tender, slow and patient, carrying the instruments that would do the actual work of mapping. And the Pale Needle, our scout, small, fast, built to go ahead and look, and to come back and tell us what it saw. I had served on her sister ship for 11 years before I ever held a command of my own, and I trusted her crew the way you trust people you have slept 3 meters from for over a decade. Before we departed, an Anthe envoy attached to the survey office asked to speak with me. An old courtesy, more ritual than warning, the kind the older lineages perform before any Threll vessel goes somewhere new. She did not tell me to turn back. She told me only that the Anthe had a word for places like the KL expanse, and that the word did not translate as empty, or as forbidden, or as dangerous. It translated, as near as our language could manage it, as already finished. I thanked her for the courtesy and filed it as exactly that. A courtesy. I did not think of it again until we were 6 days into the withdrawal, crossed into the expanse on the 11th day, and for the first 6 hours nothing was wrong at all. That is worth saying plainly, because it is the part the conclave keeps skipping past to get to the part that frightens them. For 6 hours, it was only gray space, exactly as blank as advertised, and my crew were already composing the jokes they would tell when we returned with nothing more than an empty volume of stars named after ourselves. The first anomaly was small. Our long-range array returned a position reading for the Ashward herself, 3 hours, ahead of our actual position, on a heading we had not yet set. The technician who found it assumed instrument drift and recalibrated. The reading returned, identical, an hour later. Then the Long Quiet's sensors picked up the same thing, future position for a ship that had not yet moved there. We were, according to our own instruments, already further into the expanse than we were. Something out there was answering questions we had not yet asked. I sent the Pale Needle ahead, as I had 100 times before in ordinary surveys. Orders were simple: advance 2 hours at speed, take a full sweep, transmit and return. She went, she transmitted. The data was unremarkable. More gray, a faint gravitational anomaly that might have been a dead star. Nothing alarming. I logged it and turned to the next task. 40 minutes later, the Ashward's receiver array picked up a second transmission from the Pale Needle. It was the same transmission, word for word, down to the timestamp of the technician's voice, reading off the gravitational figures. Except the timestamp on this second copy was 40 minutes in our future. A message the Pale Needle had not sent yet, arriving before the message she had. I do not have a clean way to describe what that does to a bridge crew. There was no panic. No one shouted. It was quieter than that. The particular quiet of people who have just understood that the instruments they have trusted with their lives for their entire careers are now reporting events in the wrong order, and that the instruments are not malfunctioning. I recalled the Pale Needle. I gave the order in a voice I did not entirely recognize as my own. She returned within the hour, fully intact, no damage, no distress signal, exactly as she had left. I want the conclave to understand that nothing attacked her. There was no engagement. No weapon was ever fired in the KL expanse, by us or by anything else in the entire span of this incident. I say this because I know what story certain members of this chamber would prefer to hear. And that story did not happen. What happened was quieter and worse. When we brought her crew aboard the Ashward for debriefing, the first thing my second noticed was that the Pale Needle's pilot was wearing sidearm on the wrong hip. Then that her command sigil, stitched into her collar the way all our uniforms are stitched, was reversed. The Thrall spiral running counter to every direction it has ever run, on every uniform any of us has ever worn. Then we went through the ship itself, and every control board on the Pale Needle had been rebuilt, or had rebuilt itself, as a mirror image of its original layout. The helm yoke was on the left. The reactor throttle, which on every Thrall vessel sits beneath the pilot's right hand, sat beneath the left. Text on every display ran backward, and yet every crew member aboard read it without difficulty, as though their eyes had reversed along with everything else, and no one had noticed the moment it happened. And then there was the log. The Pale Needle's flight recorder held a complete record of the 2-hour sweep we had ordered, and continued for another 6 hours past that, recording events that, by every clock on the Ashward, had not yet occurred. It described our recall order, for word, 4 minutes before I gave it. It described this debriefing, in this room, with my second's exact phrasing, 2 days before it happened. It described, and I include this only because the Conclave demanded the full record, a third Thrall vessel, one that does not exist in our flotilla, undocked from the Ashward and proceeding alone into the Expanse, never to report again. Checked our manifests 11 times. We have never had a third vessel of any kind. I had my second read that section of the log aloud twice, 'cause I did not trust my own hearing the first time. The vessel was named in the recording, given a registry number in the proper Thrall format, a hull class that does exist in our yards, and a crew complement listed by rank with no names attached, only ranks, 11 of them, the exact complement the Pale Needle herself carries. I do not know what to call a ship recorded as having left before it was built, crewed by ranks, and not people, on a heading that leads only deeper into a sector we were already fleeing. I would ask the Conclave to ensure that none ever is. I ordered an immediate withdrawal. We saw no world, we saw no fleet, no station, no living thing of any kind, in either direction. We were never fired upon, never pursued, never hailed. We simply turned the Ashward and the long quiet around, recovered the Pale Needle's crew, and ran for 6 days until the Expanse fell away behind us, and our instruments returned, one by one, to reporting events in the order they occurred. The Pale Needle's command sigil has never reversed back. Her crew's eyes have never reversed back. We do not know if the third ship in her log ever existed, or exists now, somewhere on the other side, corded into being by a record that ran the wrong direction. I do not believe the Kale Expanse is empty, and I do not believe, any longer, that it is ours to chart. I believe it is the edge of something that does not need to meet us to know us, that takes whatever crosses into it and hands it back complete, finished, already accounted for, the way you might hand back a borrowed tool with an inventory already written for it. We went looking for a blank space on our maps. We found out the blank space had already mapped us. The Conclave asked me, at the start of this session, what I recommend be done with the KL Expanse. I have no recommendation. I would only ask that whatever is decided, it be decided quietly, and that the long chart be updated without ceremony, and that none of us ever speak its name again in a room with open doors. As I finished, the great projection above the Hall of Measured Stars, the chart that has shown every claimed and unclaimed reach of Thrall space for 400 years, the chart every conclave session opens beneath, flickered once, and the KL Expanse went dark within it. No one had touched the controls. No one asked why. The session was adjourned, and the hall emptied in silence. And, to my knowledge, the KL Expanse has not appeared on a Thrall chart since, in any record, anywhere. I have told this now for the last time. I will not be asked again.